It says this
Alrighty.
meeting is being, should I press got it? It says this meeting is being live streamed.
Sure. Yep, we're live now. So
Okay.
hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. We are very excited to interview our first Women's Empowerment Awardee, Ellen Cohen. Ellen, thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure.
Great, so we're gonna get started with a few questions for Ellen. And we'll wait for people to trickle in a little bit, but we'll get started in just 1 minute here, waiting just to make sure if anyone wants to catch this live that they can. Okay. All right, let's get started. So Ellen, what does women's empowerment mean to you and how has it impacted your work and career so far?
Well, I think there's 4 points in terms of what women's empowerment means. It means, I think, the obvious, which is equality. It means self-love, to be happy with who I am. It means making choices about all parts of my life, not just health, reproduction, and it means opportunities.
Okay, great. I love all of that. I think incorporating self-love is always an important point for any success. So I think that's great. What is one of your proudest moments of lifting up voices of others who may not have had a platform to do so themselves?
Well, my life career has really been involved with who I am, and that is a Jewish woman. So the first thing that I can remember in terms of trying to help women is when I was 29, I was living in Montreal with my late husband, and I had a radical mastectomy. And I didn't know anyone anywhere that any other woman that had ever had a mastectomy in those days. And it was a long time ago. And I managed to muddle through it and then learned of a program in the United States called Reach to Recovery, which was started by a woman named Teresa Lasser. And it was to help women who were undergoing mastectomies in terms of being visited by someone who had gone through it. And so I decided to start that program in Montreal. It was a tough decision because it was going to have to expose my personal life to the community. By a cousin of my husband's was a reporter and she wanted to do a story and that would get the program launched. And I wasn't sure I wanted people to know I had breast surgery, but I decided that was the only way to do it. And then once the story broke, we were able to attract a large number of women who could be trained to visit women in the hospital. And I realized that certainly up until that point in my life was the greatest opportunity I had to try to help women, because so many of the women who had mastectomies hadn't left their homes since they had it, or they took nylon stockings and put birdseed in it and stuck it in a bra. I mean, they just didn't know what to do. And once they had someone to talk to, someone to share it, and for me, I was a young woman with 2 small children. I was visiting other young women with small children, and I was able to answer their questions. And by the time we left Montreal for Houston in 1977, this program was going in every hospital in French and English in Quebec and branching out across Canada. And that was my most poignant moment in my life up until then. And helping women seemed to be where I was destined to go. And then when I moved to Houston, I took a job as the director of the American Jewish Committee for 10 years. And we did some wonderful women's conference programs. And as a result of it, we also got the anti-Jewish American Princess program going and got rid of all those horrible cards in drugstores and others showing Jewish American princesses. And in fact, Sherry Murfish, who served on my board and is a woman well known in this country, as a very active Jewish woman was the key person to get that going. So we were able to do that. We were also able to work with domestic and sexual violence survivors, which then I ended up leaving the American Jewish Committee and spending 18 years as the CEO of the Houston Area Women's Center. And so there I was able to help women, although I'm not a counselor, but I was able to help women, and we were able to build one of the largest shelters in the country. And so all of those are areas where I've been active as a Jewish woman. And then finally, in my political career, I made no bones about. In fact, I did the opposite. I made it very obvious that I was a Jewish woman running for office.
Yeah, wow, that is all
It's a long
extremely
answer.
impressive.
It's a
No,
long
it's
answer,
great.
but
It's great. I really appreciate you sharing the first story in particular. I think there's so much power in sharing things that are, considered taboo, or people just don't really share out to the public. And I think it's so powerful because it shows other people that they're not alone, and it minimizes shame around it. So I think that is really wonderful, and what an awesome story. And it really seems to have kind of been a catalyst for your whole career, which is fantastic. And as you've talked about doing this work as a Jewish woman, and very outwardly about the fact that you are Jewish, that leads us to our next question of how do you think Jewish values and empowerment of others intersect? And do you have any examples of this from your life?
Well, I think probably it most affects the 12 years I spent in politics. I think one of the Jewish values we have is chesed, which is treating others with caring and respect. I spent 2 terms in the Texas legislature. I was the only Jewish woman on the floor. There weren't very many women on the floor, but I was the only Jewish woman on the floor. And I also learned at that point that I had to treat people with dignity and respect. And even if they didn't agree with me, it didn't make them evil and it didn't make them bad. It just meant they didn't agree with me on whatever issue I was trying to promote or whatever bill I was trying to pass. But again, I made it very clear who I was. And in fact, I was honored to have carried a bill creating the Holocaust and Genocide Commission in Texas. And in order to carry it and get it passed, the Republicans were in power. So I went to the strongest male Republican leader I could think of, who was a very strong Christian, and asked him to co-sponsor this Holocaust Genocide Commission bill, and he agreed to. And so with his name on the bill and my name next to his, we were able to get it passed. And that's how I learned how to work with people, and to show at the same time to respect the people that worked with me, my staffers, subordinates. They may be subordinate in title, but they're not subordinate intellectually or in their passion for the issues. I've been very fortunate in my 2 terms in the legislature and 8 years on city council to have almost the entire staff stick with me through my 12 years in politics.
Wow, well, that's very impressive, and obviously speaks to you as a leader and a boss to people. And I also love that story about kind of reaching across the aisle to meet this common goal. I think in these kind of highly polarized times, it's nice to hear stories like that, to kind of humanize everyone and work together to get these goals met, which is very impressive. And to wrap up, our final question is, how do you think your Jewish values informed or influenced your work and leadership style?
Well, when I was elected mayor pro tem for the city of Houston, the mayor himself made it very clear that I was the first Jewish woman to ever be mayor pro tem for the 4th largest city in the United States. But even more to the point, I was the first Jewish woman elected to city council in the history of Houston. And so I took those opportunities every time, for example, if we had a Jewish holiday at the time of one of our meetings, I mean, I would announce ahead of time that my office would be closed for the following reasons. And I took that time to explain what Rosh Hashanah was, or to explain what Yom Kippur was. And then if I had a message, when I put a message on my phone at my office, it wouldn't just say our offices are closed for the day. It would explain exactly why. I also took the opportunity in whatever office I had to put a mezuzah on the door. I always found it was easier to ask forgiveness than permission. So I made sure that my mezuzah was on the door. And if somebody asked what it was, I proudly announced what it was. For Hanukkah, I would put out donuts and other things in my office and invite my colleagues in. Because really, if for the most part, my colleagues didn't have much of an in-depth knowledge about Judaism. When I was first elected, my Rabbi David Lyon at Beth Israel, called me into his office. I thought I was being punished or something, but actually he called me in to talk to me about what does Judaism say about leadership. And it was an extremely enlightening meeting. And he educated me, and I learned a lot about that. I just am proud of who I am. I'm proud of being a Jewish woman, and I make no bones about it. And sometimes it walks in the door before I do, often.
Yeah, wow, that's really incredible. And I like that you took the opportunity to not only state, yes, we will be closed on high holidays, but also using it as an opportunity to educate people. I know in my life, there's been many times where I'm like, hey, this is scheduled for Rosh Hashanah, like I can't be there. So I think that's so important. And I know this wasn't one of our like planned questions, but one thing that's coming up for me as I'm listening to you is, did you like ever have any, fear or hesitations in being so bold of a trailblazer in this way? And if you did, how did you kind of overcome those things and just show up proudly as yourself?
I don't know that I ever had any fear, but I will tell you when I was in the legislature in Austin, at one point there was a problem. I think it had to do with Israel and confrontation, but there were serious problems. And the Austin Capitol Police were assigned to make sure that I got from my office to my car for a period of about a week, because there were threats to the Jewish community in general, and I was out there in front. I haven't faced any blatant anti-Semitism. I've faced subtle anti-Semitism, but I've never been afraid. I never have been afraid. And I think that as Jews, for so long, many years ago in this country, we had a tendency to perhaps hide behind who we really were. And now, clearly, that is not the case. We have a lot of very prominent and proud Jews in all areas of the country and all businesses. And I'm proud to be one, and makes me happy to say I'm Jewish, and here I am.
Okay, great. That is a perfect way to end our interview today. It's been so lovely talking with you and getting to know a little bit more about your experiences and your vast amount of stories where you have shown up and really proved that you are truly someone who is a representation of everything that these awards represent in terms of empowerment and bringing Jewish values into the world and helping others. So we really appreciate you speaking with us today, and to tune in every week. We will be doing one of these interviews, and we hope to see you next time. And once again, thank you, Ellen Cohen.
Thank you very much. And thank you for all WRJ does for all of us around the world. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Have a good day, everyone.